Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, beaten and forced to march into the forest. Worrying tales, but also relief and joy at the return of 279 Nigerian girls who had been kidnapped from their boarding school last week. There's also concern that negotiations to secure their release could offer incentive to other kidnappers. Also, nearly 4 million doses of the Astra Zeneca vaccine arrives in Nigeria's capital in the largest delivery to Africa so far by the global Covax initiative. And more young Togolese farmers sign on for agroecology studies as they look for ways to increase their yields in a sustainable way. But first, 279 Nigerian schoolgirls who were kidnapped from their campus in the northwest last week have been released. Some of the girls say that they were beaten as they were forced to march into the forest by their kidnappers. Zamfara state officials deny having paid a ransom for the children's release. Now, relief over their return runs alongside concern that a series of similar abductions are in part a result of authorities paying off kidnappers. Sam Olokoya tells us more.
After they were released from captivity, the girls have been speaking about their traumatic experience while being held by this group of gunmen. They said they threatened to kill them, they were beaten, they were starved, they were made to walk long distances. The group never considered that they were dealing with children. Some of the children are just 10 years old. They were held by a group of organized kidnappers who are also holding some other people kidnapped in the past. The girls said they saw women, they saw children, they even saw the father of one of their colleagues who was kidnapped about 3 months ago. The state government said it will carry out medical examination on the girls and feed them with balanced diet to ensure they are in good health before they are released to their families. The state government said no ransom was paid on their behalf to secure their release. But some newspaper reports said as much as €1 million might have been paid. There are also suggestions that some hardened criminals who belong to this group, when in prison, have been released in exchange for the girls. The state government has appealed to parents not to be discouraged about what has happened. The government said schools are safe and parents should send their children to school. But we've seen several similar incidents that parents have become skeptical about the security in schools. It seems the abduction of school children has become such a lucrative thing that so many people are keen into it. Governments at various levels have been accused of paying kidnappers, and this has encouraged them to go to school, pick children, and then get a lot of money as ransom. They say so as long as the government continues to pay kidnappers, then this thing will always happen and parents will not find it convenient to send their children to school.
Sam Olokoya there for us. Now, suspected ISWAP jihadists are thought to be behind Monday night's attack on humanitarian posts in the northeastern Nigerian town of Dikwa. However, no one has yet claimed responsibility. Attackers arrived in trucks and surrounded residents. Some witnesses say that they burned down buildings, including a police station, before they were turned back by the military. Now, the UN says that the siege directly targeted aid facilities. About 75,500 IDPs, internally displaced people, live near Dikwa. The attack happened about 48 hours after the Borno state governor had handed out cash and food to displaced families there. And on Tuesday, Nigeria received Africa's largest Covax COVID-19 vaccine delivery so far. Almost 4 million doses of the Astra Zeneca shot arrived in Abuja. Nigeria is one of the 92 countries that will receive vaccines for free under the scheme. Nicola Shamar with more.
The Covax initiative began its rollout last week and is stepping up its deliveries. The programme is backed by the World Health Organization and aims to provide vaccines for poor and middle-income countries.
Today, we expect deliveries to Angola, Cambodia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Nigeria. Between now and the end of May, 237 million doses of vaccines will be allocated to 142 participating economies and countries in Covax.
On Tuesday, nearly 4 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine arrived in Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
Last year, we eliminated polio in Nigeria. After many years, we couldn't have done that without a vaccine. Vaccines are one of the most important tools we have in modern medicine.
The batches were made by the Serum Institute of India. They are the first of 16 million jabs that Covax plans to deliver over the coming months to the country of 200 million people.
It's so important that health workers are vaccinated first, so not only could they continue the campaign against COVID-19, but also they could resume their work with the routine immunization, with nutrition for children. That is where ultimately the impact is going to be felt.
The Nigerian government urged traditional rulers, religious leaders, civil society groups and the media to spread the message that vaccinations were essential in the fight against this pandemic.
Now, rights group Amnesty International accuses all sides involved in a deepening conflict in Mozambique of war crimes. In a new report, investigators say that hundreds of civilians have been killed in Cabo Delgado as government forces and South American mercenaries that support them clash with jihadi rebels. More than 2,000 people have been killed and around 600,000 displaced by the 3-year insurgency. Amnesty has called for Maputo and international organisations to investigate the reported abuses more closely. Little balls of acacia seeds are helping regrow Kenya's thinned-out forests. The seed balls are a key resource for rangers operating around the Masai Mara Reserve as they do what they can to give nature a helping hand. Have a look.
Every day, rangers patrol the Mara National Reserve in southwest Kenya to check on the elephants and spot illegal human activity that destroys their habitat. They have just discovered an area where loggers cut down trees to make charcoal in the Nyakweri forest. Quickly, the team scatters handfuls of balls of seed around the clearing.
That is because we need to have the forest here so that the elephants which are here can actually get food and habitat.
The balls are acacia seeds coated in charcoal. Kenyan entrepreneur Teddy Kinyanjui came up with the idea to address a common problem.
In nature, when you just throw out bare seeds, a lot of those seeds get eaten by mice and birds and insects. So we protect them in the charcoal dust, so you can throw them out year-round. You don't have to wait for the rainy season. Then it will sit there, coated in its little protective coating, wait until the rains come, which washes the dust away, and then the seed is back to its natural state and able to start growing.
Illegal deforestation has chipped away over half of the Nyakweri forest in the past 20 years. This was to clear land for pasture and crops and to make charcoal, a cheap fuel. Rangers have sowed masses of the seed balls in the past 3 years to counter the cutting down. On this particular day, they scattered nearly 20,000. Growing trees is important to avoid soil erosion and floods.
Those trees provide like a sponge. So the rain comes down, it hits the trees, and then goes down the trunks of the trees and diffuses slowly into the ground.
Out of millions of seed balls, only up to 10% end up growing. And it is a long project. This local Maasai family scattered seed balls more than a year ago. Today, the saplings are waist high.
Now, a group of young farmers in central Togo are trying to lead the way using sustainable agricultural techniques. Many have studied agroecology to update their methods. The course is becoming increasingly popular, as our correspondents report.
More and more young people like Abdu are promoting chemical-free agriculture. He's currently teaching young producers enrolled on a 3-month course about sustainable food and agriculture. That means using no chemical pesticides or fertilizers. Everything used on the land is natural. Nearly 300 student farmers have been trained thanks to farm schools like this one, which are expanding rapidly in central Togo.
What I learnt in training was so important that I couldn't keep it to myself. So the idea came to me to pass on what I learnt very quickly, to save lives and to save nature.
I would pass on what I learned to my husband, who is a farmer. It's really different from what he does. This way we will be able to meet all the needs of the family, and later I will pass on this knowledge to my children. This is an ancient agricultural practice that has been abandoned.
All the farm schools are modelled on the Albaraka Farm School in Chavadi. Everything started here with this farmer after he visited the Songhai Centre in neighbouring Benin, a reference in terms of ecological practices.
When we were young, our dads used to have good yields here, but for some time now we have noticed that the soil is getting poorer. The yields are decreasing day by day. And that is why we developed agroecology.
By changing the way they farm, their returns have doubled. Extra produce is sold to the local population.
For a year now, with the health crisis, agroecology has reassured us and shown us we can be self-sufficient. Now we can really appreciate our local initiatives to develop a sustainable agriculture without reaching out to the outside world.
Today, in this central region alone, more than 1,200 young farmers have joined the cooperative. The hope is now to attract more young farmers to adopt sustainable farming across the country to help feed the rural population.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.